I am so excited to continue this series that I just started, and that is a series of talking to my clients and asking them what are 3 to 5 pieces of the puzzle that have helped you get to your goal. Because we all have our own separate journeys, and I think it's really beneficial for listeners out there to understand, one, that it's not just one thing, and two,
Yeah.
that for each individual, it might be something different. And maybe somebody can relate to some of those things that have helped you achieve your goal. Yeah. So, I mean, you set the Olympic trials record this year.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. So, and it's been a long road. I mean, it's been a
Yeah.
lot of years and a long road.
A
So,
lot of years.
yeah, you've definitely got some stuff dialed in. So,
Yeah.
what do you like? Let's just start and just tell me what
Yeah.
at the top of your head, like what are some of the things that
Yeah.
you feel have given you a
Mhm.
foundation to achieve your goals?
Yeah. I think for me, there's like three big ones where I felt like really changed the trajectory of my career in javelin. And I mean, they all really come from working with you. So I know that you didn't ask me to say that, but they did
Oh,
these things. So I want that to absolutely be known. And I think the first thing that you really opened my eyes to was that nutrition is fuel. And the way that we, quote unquote, want to talk about nutrition or want to talk about just like fueling your body as an athlete, your kind of like tips and tricks of like, Maggie, your body is a like machine. Like your body is wonderful and amazing and can do all these amazing things. And I think for me, I had such a hard relationship with my body because I, was quote unquote like big bone growing up, or like was like, had curvy thighs or whatever it was. And so at the time, I really looked at these athletes who were being celebrated and they were stick thin and, six pack abs. And I was like, gosh, like I would diet, or I would, like starve myself to try to get to that. And my
you
performance was
you were
go
thinking
down.
like calorie
Yes,
wise instead of fueling wise,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
unfortunately this is a something that young girls
Yeah,
particularly fall into, and I'm so happy
yeah,
that there are people speaking up about fueling
yeah.
with nutrient dense foods instead of just counting calories, because
Yes,
I always say anyone
exactly.
who's into counting calories is has never been pregnant or gone through menopause, because those 2 times hormones
Yeah.
change. And
Hmm.
actually, well, it's this is off of the subject, but
Yeah.
when I became pregnant with my first child, I actually lost 10 pounds and I ate 3 times as many calories because of the hormones.
Crazy.
So
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
calories are only one particular,
It
yeah.
really
And
is.
and
And
these girls that are thin need to know that that's
yes.
if they're healthy, and that
Yep.
there are problems that can come from.
Yep. Yes. And I would agree to that. Like there were then psychological problems because if you really want to dive into it, if you're not fueling properly, your hormones are going to be all sorts of off, and then you're going to feel terrible about yourself and you're not going to see the results because, of so many reasons that we don't have to get into, but it just like is this flywheel of the negativity. And I think when I brought like my path and your path crossed, you taught me how to fuel my body and, eat, the fats and the proteins and dive into that. And it really created a different mindset for me where I was like, yeah, my body is amazing. Like I used to step on the scale daily. And then the way that I was able to change my eating and my just like, if you want to call it a nutrition plan or whatever, it really did affect the way that I viewed myself. And I never stepped on a scale again. Like I literally was like, I feel good. My performance is better than it's ever been. Like I truly feel like I am a warrior and I love what I get to do. Like all of these things sort of piling up in on each other. And I think a lot of that came from just like education and understanding around what's good for me and to really reshape. Maggie, like everybody's bodies are different and they're meant to do different things. And I finally got to an acceptance then that my body was beautiful and strong and I was fueling it to kick some ass. Like that's why what we were doing. So that would be kind of my first big one. And then the second one that came to mind was more of like the mental health, taking a second, meditating, like gratitude journals, and for me, like being in the Word, being in the Bible for me, but really taking a second to, come down a gear, because as athletes, we are running at high capacity all the time. But to be able to take a moment for yourself is healing for your body too. And like your body needs that and your mind needs that.
Yeah, that
And
was one of my
I've
favorite
been,
things that
yeah,
my mentor Charles taught us, and that was to have the morning goals, to either
yeah,
write down or recite, that you are envisioning them before they happen. So like something as small as, I got all of my paperwork done today,
yeah,
or as big as I broke the American record today,
yeah,
So
yeah, whatever it is. Or I
whatever
dropped
it
all my
is,
kids
but
off at school and everything went great.
yeah, but just like one to three things of, what you
Yeah,
already have accomplished that day before
yeah.
it even happened. And then at the end of the day, reciting, what he called the gratitude log, which
Mm,
we love to do at our family around the dinner table. And that
yeah,
is reciting um, what have I, wait, who, who has taught me, who have I helped today?
yeah.
Who's helped me today? What have I learned today? And what am I
Mm,
thankful for? Those
yeah.
four things. And
And
but
it's
just
so
being, like
good.
you said, being in that moment of
Yeah,
taking a step back and being
yep,
thankful. Because
yep,
again, like you said, as athletes, we're just basically wired to look
yeah,
for the next challenge and to
yes,
beat it. So if
yep.
we break,
And our
we want to
weaknesses and
break
the
the
things
next
that
one.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like there's so many things that we're like wired to be like, I
yeah,
have to improve on this at all times. And if you're constantly in that like hamster wheel, you never take yourself out and say like, oh my gosh, like I'm so grateful for where I'm even at. Like, 6 years ago, I never even envisioned that I would be here. And that doesn't mean that I still don't have goals that I want to achieve, but to take a second to be like, and for me, it really is like, oh my gosh, like, God, thank you for bringing me on this journey that I never believed that would ever happen for me. And just to be able to take a second like that yeah, it changes my day. It changes my week. It changes my relationships with people. Like, we are better when we are grateful and when we acknowledge the amazing things that have happened in our life, and we have better relationships with people and we interact better with people because of that.
that's true. That's very true. And I think a lot of people don't realize too that when you eat more fats, you create
Mm,
a better nerve connection with your myelin sheaths, particularly also if you're eating red meat and the B12. So
mhm.
when you change from maybe a carbohydrate based type eating
Yep.
to a fat protein, or we'll say protein first, then
Yeah.
fats type
Hmm.
eating, you actually have a better mental capacity because your nerves are
Yes.
better supported. So, and there
Yeah.
is a lot of research on the ketogenic type of eating, which, we don't particularly do. We're more like
Mm-mm.
carnivore keto,
Yeah.
but we do eat high fats, just
Higher fats. Yeah.
not as high as
Hmm.
keto. But that type of diet, the higher fats, um, it is shown to be neuroprotective, and even in
Hmm.
cases of kids with autism. So
Yeah.
I think that, that's why Charles taught us that, and why I ended up doing my own research, because of course, besides giving us his knowledge, he taught me how to do my own research, because it's always changing. So,
Yes.
50 medical journal
Yeah.
articles at least a week, and a couple books,
Yeah,
and
your brain is higher functioning than mine, but that's why they invented tech. So I could be like, Cynthia, what are you learning lately? Or
yeah,
my husband,
or
Sam.
I'll text you, newsflash, you start doing this.
Yeah, I
Start
know.
doing
Yeah.
that, or
But
watch out for this.
and I think that that's so important. We follow the same people and we listen to the same, I'm like nutrition, I don't want to call them experts. You could call them an expert, but something that I think it's, what is her name? She's really popular right now. Dr. Casey, I think is her
Oh yeah,
name.
I've seen her.
And
Yeah, I've
she
seen her.
she said something in her recent interview, and I totally believe that this is true. And she said the medical system most of the time wants to keep you uneducated, or they want you to believe that you are uneducated enough to read a blood panel, or to the simplicity of even like knowing what your blood type is. If you ask the people in your life if they know what their blood type is, I bet you 4 to 5 people would say they don't know. And I think,
Well, like 4 out of 5.
yeah, four to
Yeah,
five people would say, no, I don't know my blood type.
totally.
And you have taught me that, like, no, Maggie, just because somebody has a white coat on does not mean that they are an expert, does not mean that they know everything and you know nothing. No, there are so many medical journals like you're talking about where we can educate ourselves now. And we're so, lucky to be in this world where we have these resources at our fingertips to educate ourselves and learn and go deeper and question things. And I
And
think
right,
a
not
lot of
only that,
times,
but
yeah,
those doctors in the white coats so often, even my doctors who are
yeah,
phenomenal, they're great
yeah,
Western medical doctors. My general practitioner and my OBGYN, both amazing individuals. They actually ask me for the research. Why?
yeah,
Because they know that I'm always on the cutting edge of
yes,
reading all of the
yes,
research. And also
yep,
they don't have time a lot of the times. They're seeing
yeah.
patients. And
Oh,
they
of
do,
course.
I'm not saying that this is all doctors everywhere, but I'm saying a lot of
No.
times they fall onto what they learned in medical school, which is already 30 years out of date,
Yep,
according to people I've
yep,
talked to. Already
yep.
30 years behind the research. And if they do
Or
pick up,
funded by different organizations who have
oh my
an
gosh, that's
angle. That's
right.
a whole
And
other
that's a
angle.
whole other
But
story. Yeah,
yes,
that's
but I
true.
think
Who's
what you
funding it,
taught,
right?
yeah,
And then
but what you continue to say is like keep educating yourself. And I think everybody can do that. I really do.
yes, that's a good point. That I haven't talked about before, and that is that anyone has they might not understand all of the words,
Yeah.
but you can at least try to start to understand it and look up the words and look up the
Yep.
systems. Like we have so many, like with the internet today, we call it YouTube school, like
Yeah.
you can actually take online courses and
Yes.
biochemistry, and then you will be able to understand them.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
at the very least, I think it's really interesting that you brought up learning how to read your own blood work, because
Yeah.
that's one I think that most people actually could possibly learn to do.
Yeah, and I think that, and I mean, a lot of it is like I am trying to listen to a diverse group of people who have different perspectives and thoughts, and that was one thing that came up in their conversation was like, you can read your own blood work, and there are systems that want you to believe that you don't have the capacity because you didn't go to medical school. But why would they do that? Well, because then you become a repeat customer for the rest of your life.
Right. And it's rare to find a doctor that doesn't want you as a repeat customer.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm blessed with a couple of really good ones.
Yes.
But they know I'm not bringing my kids in for wellness checks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's just not happening. I'm
Absolutely.
not going to bring them into a place of sickness when they're
Yeah.
perfectly well and
Yeah.
they're thriving and
Yeah.
obviously, the right height and weight and all this stuff. So
Yes. Yeah.
they do have to do school physicals, I believe, in Hawaii every like second grade and
Hmm.
seventh grade or something like that. So they are
Yeah.
required. But other than that, like I'm not doing it. So
Yeah.
they
And
know
there are
that.
amazing doctors who, like, like we talked about that we have worked with. Like, I'm not knocking doctors. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. But I
Right.
think that,
There's a place for Western medicine
oh,
for
yes.
sure.
Yes,
We
yes.
appreciate
Like we're
that.
not we're not knocking that by any means, but I do think that people should feel empowered to continue to like educate themselves and learn more about your body. There's been all this conversation about like why isn't the female body like understood by yourself by women? We should know about our own, how things work. And I think that that goes beyond just, women. I think that's men and women. You should know how your body works and you should be attuned to that. And that's one thing like you and my husband Sam, who is just, I mean, you and I've talked about him like you need to get certified because you go into this so deeply.
He's
And
a
I'm just
great
like, okay, sure,
researcher.
Sam. Like
He's very great at researching, and
he
that's
is. That's he is such a skilled person at that. And not even just researching, but being able to research and piece things together and be like, I don't agree with this, or there was this article that like is a little bit different, or here's maybe where like there's a bias. Like he's very good
right.
at that.
So you start to when you read enough of these articles, you
Yep.
start to understand the biases and you start to read the patterns. And I think that's
Yes.
what I've learned to do for, whether
Yeah.
it's working with 100 clients and seeing the
Yeah.
this supplement does this or this
Yeah.
supplement, there's a negative effects of this, or
Yeah.
you start to read patterns. And
Yeah.
I think he's probably really good at reading the patterns now, where he can
Yeah.
see that, okay, this is the pattern of what happens
Yeah.
here. and this is
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things that both of you guys have taught me for sure. But I'm really grateful just for your assistance in this. And it opened a world that I would never have understood this, even thought like I would have just gone like a sheep, right? Like I would just like followed the pack and been like, no, you have to go to the doctor and you have to take every antibiotic and you have to, all sorts of things. And I feel like you really opened my world up. And then also like you made me feel better than I've ever felt. Like I feel healthier than I've ever felt before. And I think that is something that, yes, is anecdotal, but it's my story. And I can just speak from, my experience that I feel better mentally and physically because of the lifestyle that we now have.
Yeah, and I just like that's why I do what I do. I always say it's my passion to help others thrive, but breaking records is great, winning medals
Yeah.
is great, but if you can't get out of bed in the morning,
Yep.
that is not that's where the actual victory
Yes.
is. And for
Yep.
me, with you, I just wanted you to feel better and
Yep.
feel more like yourself again and get
Yep.
back to your, like you said, and like the
Yeah.
empowerment of yourself, your warriors,
Yeah.
superhero
Yeah.
warrior self. That's what I want for
Hmm.
everyone.
Yeah.
So yes, that is like, I can't wait to also help you make babies.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about
My favorite
that.
thing. That's my favorite thing with my
You,
clients. So
Sam, and me, just the three of us.
I know, but I know, no pressure, no pressure. But
I know. I know. Yes,
I'm
we've
looking
talked
at
about
that.
it.
I'm waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
We've talked about that. Yep.
we But the point is that I think too that athletes don't understand whether they're 19 or they're, 50, that if you don't feel well, you're not going to perform well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had, athletes in going, from high school to college who are phenomenal high school athletes, but they're
Hmm.
eating sugar because
Yep.
dietitians and nutritionists are saying it's okay to eat sugar. It's okay
Yep.
to fuel with, you absolutely should be fueling with carbohydrates because you're, a power athlete. And
Yes.
so then they end up with hormonal imbalances like PCOS, get
Yep.
to college, start running or doing their events, and then get stress fractures because their estrogen
Yep.
so low because they have PCOS, which is
Yep.
actually somebody recently described it as hormonal diabetes, and I thought that was a really great description.
Well, yeah. I mean, that
It's
Dr. Casey has hit
completely
on there. He was like, it's an insulin resistant
exactly,
disease.
yes, it's an insulin resistance disease,
Yes.
and it affects your hormones, and that affects your bone health and your, I mean,
Yeah.
everything health. So she,
Yep.
she didn't perform well her freshman year that well because she had all these, stress fractures.
Yeah.
They tried to put her on birth control. She
Oh
ended
my
up
gosh.
puking. She
You're
was like
just
puking. That was
perpetuating this
awful.
terrible. Yeah.
So that didn't work for her. And so, her
Yep.
dad had reached out to me and I was like, I would be happy to help her because this is my
Yeah.
passion.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I think that female athletes, especially young female athletes, need
Yep.
to really realize that um, fueling with nutrient dense food
Yep.
will empower you and will keep you going for a long
Yeah.
time in your sport,
Yep.
accelerating your performance instead of dropping you off a cliff because
Yes.
all of a sudden you have all of these health problems.
Yeah, yeah. And then you're piling in all these. I mean, yeah, I've seen this happen with so many friends of mine where you laid out the exact story and then it's like, well, let's get you on birth control. Well, now I'm depressed, so let's get you on an antidepressant. Or excuse me, it's usually this. They don't feel well, so they go in, let's get you on a birth control, or maybe you already are. Now I'm anxious. Let's get you on an anxiety medication. Oh, now I'm depressed. Let's get you on an antidepressant medication. Now I can't sleep. Let's get you on a sleeping medication. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. And especially with female athletes, I think that's where I have a stronger heart towards because I and my sister, both of us, we really struggled in that system because we are high achievers and we want success. And then there's this pressure in our brains to look a certain way. And it's like, well, maybe genetically I wasn't gifted that because I'm genetically gifted to throw the javelin, not to run the 100 meters. Like I'm here to throw
Well,
the javelin.
I'm just going to interject there and say I have sprinted with you, and I don't know about that
Well,
because you're freaking fast.
different. Thank you.
But
I
and also
appreciate
we talked
that.
about let me just also interject here about your high jump. One time I asked you, Maggie, you told me you used to be a combined events athlete. How high did you jump? And you didn't think it was that good, but what was it like high?
I don't remember. I
It
honestly
was
don't
like
remember
high
because
five something. Yeah.
sure,
Over
sure,
five
yeah,
five. Yeah, five
sure.
eight.
I honestly don't know because
Yeah.
I've blocked out that in my brain.
There you go. Well, for most people, I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
it's pretty high.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
higher than I jumped. As a
I
high
am
jumper.
not claiming to be, I was never a multi, like my goodness, I just have so much respect because I'm like hardest event on the planet.
Oh
But
yeah, I'd
like,
love to see you jump in a decathlon.
oh gosh,
I'm
no, 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 no.
trying to get everybody to try it.
I know, and I'm like, I can't, I just,
Nobody
that's
wants
not for
to.
me. It's not for
I
me.
know.
You know,
I
I'm
know.
okay.
It's a
I'm
lot.
very okay throwing my
But
javelin.
there is something I wanted to point out though. It's like
Yeah,
that the fact that you are my point with this is that you say you're built to throw the javelin, which clearly you are because we'll get into this in a second. But the
yeah,
javelin is having learning
yeah,
multi-events, learning multi-events myself for the decathlon the past couple of years. I just started learning the javelin last year,
hmm
and it is a violent event. And we'll talk about that in a second because
Violent is a great word for
but
it.
wow, on your body, it's violent. And
Yeah,
so the fact that you can throw the javelin is just wow, major
yeah.
props to you.
Thank you.
But you can run fast because I've seen you, and you can
Yeah,
jump high. So you
yeah,
are a power athlete, and I
yeah,
think that there's this I don't know how to put it, but these dietitians and nutritionists who are trained by big food, we'll just say, because they're the ones donating to most of the nutrition
yeah,
programs. They have this mantra that you absolutely have to have carbohydrates, and you have simple carbohydrates. You have to have sugar
yeah,
for fuel. And
yeah.
you are a great example because you are a power athlete, and you are not carbohydrate fueled.
No,
You sometimes we're not anti-carbohydrate. We
no,
do carb timing and carb quality,
yeah.
but as opposed to these people are saying 400 grams of carbs a day, 500
Yeah.
grams
Or
minimum.
here's this Gatorade bar. Make sure you eat that after your lifting session.
Yeah,
What?
right. More sugar. Like that's not
Yeah.
what you need
That's
protein.
coated with corn syrup and chocolate.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
How about the chocolate milk though?
And
Chocolate
oh
milk.
my gosh. Well, see, and that was my like when I came through college, I have no idea what it's like now, but when I came through college, that was the big push was like you need to have a whole thing, a pint of chocolate milk, like all the time. You need to drink it after you lift, after you work out. And we would just ingest that and then feel like crap.
Yeah. Feel like crap. Exactly. That's the thing. And then
Or
like
gain weight. Then I'm like, why am I
right.
gaining weight? Like, why
Yeah.
am I like not getting stronger, but I'm like putting on more pounds? This is
Yeah.
confusing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I think that through real life world experience, like through you and through some of my other clients who are pretty
Yep.
much all power athletes, whether it's jujitsu or wrestling
Yep.
or, I mean, I really don't I can't think of anyone I work with that's an endurance athlete. They're all power athletes.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
they are not fueled by carbohydrates. They are very, my clients' carbohydrates are usually under 100 grams a day, which
Hmm.
yeah, keto would be like 20 grams a day or something
Yeah.
like that. We're not that low. We're like probably 50 to 70 range,
Yeah.
but, and it's carb timing for
Hmm.
neurotransmitter response. But, yeah, it's just like, I think it's just this misnomer that you need
Yeah.
this simple carbohydrates. I just,
Yeah.
somebody
People know that I bring steak to my competitions. Like all my competitors know it. They all smile at me and I'm like, I know guys, like
I used to
it's
be called the meat lady.
yeah, I mean, there's worse things to be called.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm fine with it. But yeah, let's make normal steak as a pre-workout supplement. I
Yeah.
just had this discussion with somebody and I was like, why wouldn't you have a steak
Yes.
before 400 meters even? And they go, oh, what about throwing up? I get that all the time. Actually, my clients and myself even, but I've never thrown up in my 40s in training because
Dang.
I believe it's from that transition to this
Yeah.
small amount of nutrient dense food that ingesting,
Yeah.
not even making it to my colon. Who wants
Yeah.
carbohydrates sitting in their colon while they're racing? And like
Yeah.
you, and me, we're at track meets for a long time, so we have to like
Yes.
warm up and wait, and then our
Yes.
takes a lot of time because we have to wait for other people to
Yep.
go, or we have to wait for
Yep.
the race to start. Like so,
Yep.
I think we need to make it more normal that it's okay to say that fat and protein fueling will reserve your power and could even make you more powerful
Yes.
instead of
I
saying,
mean, I
laughing
can just
at
say
and saying,
again,
ha 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 ha.
yeah.
Everyone knows carbohydrates are the best
Yeah.
fuel. You need glycogen. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually get glycogen from protein as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
and I can say too, I have on my notes a basically a whole document of all of my standing long jump, standing triple jump, overhead back throws, like everything from 2016 to now. And it is a drastic increase from the times when I was not feeling myself properly to when we made this change in lifestyle and change in what I was eating in preparation. Drastic difference. And this is now like quantitative. I can see I am kicking 2016, 2017-year-old Maggie's butt when I'm properly fueling myself.
So you're getting more powerful as you age.
Yes,
And it's
yes,
amazing. I love
yes.
it. Oh,
Hmm.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
what are a couple other pieces of the puzzle? I know that your faith is a big part
Yep. Yeah, my
of
faith's
that.
a huge piece of this. I definitely wouldn't be doing this without my faith. I think it's the most important. I mean, to me, it's the reason why I do javelin. It's the reason why I do track and field is because I feel like I've been given a gift to do this, and I feel like this is what Jesus made me to do, and I want to do it until He asks me to be done with it. And I just feel really grateful that I get to do this, but something that I got to this year, this year has been the most enjoyable. I mean, there's been some bumps, like the Olympics were sad for certain reasons and still like working through that. But at the end of the day, like this has been the most enjoyable season that I've had. And I think it's because I finally got to this mental space where I was like, Maggie, you were meant to do this. Like you were like God, when you were being formed in your mom, like he knew what he was doing with you. And I truly believe that. And I truly believe that I was meant to do this and I'm going to walk faithfully in that. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be successful. And that doesn't mean I'm going to break every record. And I just feel really grateful that I get to do this, but something that I got to this year, this year has been the most enjoyable. I mean, there's been some bumps, like the Olympics were sad for certain reasons and still like working through that. But at the end of the day, like this has been the most enjoyable season that I've had. And I think it's because I finally got to this mental space where I was like, Maggie, you were meant to do this. Like you were like God, when you were being formed in your mom, like he knew what he was doing with you. And I truly believe that. And I truly believe that I was meant to do this and I'm going to walk faithfully in that. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be successful. And that doesn't mean I'm going to break every record or whatever that is. And there's going to be sad times too. But when you know that you're walking and what you're supposed to be doing, you can walk boldly in that and just like keep going. And it's
Right,
like
like
easy.
you're expressing, well, I always go back to when I don't know where exactly I heard it, but the statement that God is within all of us. So that I
Yeah.
think can be interpreted so many different ways. And
Hmm.
I think that, part of our creativity, I really believe that our creativity, God created the universe. So if you tap into that, I think that our creativity is possibly that biggest part of God,
Yeah.
or the source, whatever you want to call, different names for I think this
Yeah.
source. And when you create or you exhibit your talent, I think that you are expressing that higher power
Yeah.
because it's so pure when you
And
feel
there's a
and you
connection. Like
do it.
I feel
It's so
God.
pure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we are
For the
his creation. I really
spirituality.
believe that. Yeah. And it's like if we are his creation and he made us to do whatever it is, like for you, it's like he gave you this brain, he gave you this body, he gave you this platform to help people, to educate people. It's like you're doing exactly what you were made to do. And that doesn't mean it's easy, and that doesn't mean that it's like, the bad days don't come with it, because they do, but it does mean that you, I feel like, can know that you're doing something and be content with that, because when you know that you're doing something and you're meant to do it, there's like I said, there's this connection. Like I feel this connection every time I throw the javelin, where I'm like, okay, God, like regardless if it's a good or bad day, like I feel you on this track, like I feel you within me.
Right,
And
you're
that's
doing your
empowering.
purpose. You're doing
Yeah.
your purpose. That's great.
Yeah.
And that
Hmm.
also doesn't mean that that's who you are for the rest of your life. That
No.
just means that
Uh-uh.
that's what he empowered you to do while
Yeah.
you were able to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we all have
Yeah.
different facets. Like, I, of course,
Totally.
paint and do
Yep.
other things
Yes.
besides,
Yeah. And
besides
I feel
running.
like
But
too, I'm like, I think God, I mean, I hope, but I feel like God has made me to be a mom someday. Like I
yes.
really do feel that.
Mhm.
And I think that that's one of the most, I think that'll be the best thing that I could do with my life. I honestly do, is like to be a mom. And we've talked about this. It's like the most rewarding thing and I've had success in javelin, but I always tell people like, I hope that people remember me as like a Christian first, that I loved Jesus, and that they remember that I throw javelin last. Like that's just something that I did.
That's really
Like
humble of you. That's
well,
actually
I mean, that's what I hope. Like, and I hope that when I have kids, it's the same thing. It's like that they see my kids and they know that those kids are good kids and they love the Lord and they work hard and all of those things. And okay, whatever, like I threw the javelin, great. But to me, I'm like, that's nothing compared to what I feel like we were meant to do on this earth. So
that's really
that's
amazing.
where I live out of.
Yeah. And before we get to another one, we'll say maybe one more after this, but
Yeah.
let's talk about the javelin as an event.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, I mentioned that I thought it was violent, and so why I
Yeah.
said that is because you have so many different components. I
Yeah.
just want our listeners to understand like what you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're sprinting, and then
Yep.
you have to have a certain amount of mobility, right? And I'm still learning it, so I'm going to butcher this
Yep.
description, but
Yep. Yep.
and you're kind of like your whole shoulder and your whole body has to torque, and then you have to release in a technical way that
Yep.
goes very far. And if you
Yep.
are off of that technical way by
Yep.
one smidgen, that javelin's not going anywhere. And it's
No.
crazy because I tell people like, what the heck? I know I'm strong. Like I'm 5'10,
Yep.
I'm like, between 150, 155, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm strong. I know
Yeah.
it. And so I know I'm fast because I was freaking world champion. So
Yes.
I know I'm fast and I know I'm strong. Why is my javelin going like I just
Yep.
threw a toothpick?
Yeah.
And so
I know.
I always talk about how in my one of my competitions, this really skinny lady totally just like
It's
pranced up to
finesse.
the end and
Yep.
threw the javelin further than I threw it. And I was like,
How
what?
did you do that?
Yeah,
I
and
know.
I and
I
I
know.
watch people all the time, and of course my shot put and discus throwing coach likes to send me videos all the time, and he just sent me one of I think it was a guy, and he was just like he basically like tiptoed up to the line and threw the javelin like 60 meters.
Yeah.
It was like a warm up or something. I don't know what he was
Yeah.
doing, a drill, but I'm like, what? And so I just want to describe that
Yeah.
it's violent on the body because
Yeah.
I'm actually most sore when I'm throwing
Yeah.
javelin of all the different events. Like, maybe my hamstrings will get sore from high
Yeah.
jumping or whatever, or sometimes,
Yeah.
my shoulder hardly ever hurts or anything from shot put. Like I'm trying to think of all the other events. Like, yeah, like some running, of course, will make my
Yeah.
legs sore, but javelin, I'm sore from my neck to
Yeah.
my ankles. So
Yeah.
can you describe?
Yeah. I mean, you explained it perfectly, and I love it. I love when people who that wasn't like their main event. I love when they experience javelin and can explain it, because for me at this point, I've been throwing it since 2013, 14. So when yeah, like every time I throw the javelin, that next day feels like I got hit by a car. And I think that you explained it where it's like, I know I'm strong. I know I'm fast. Why isn't this going super far? And I think there's so many things that have to be in balance with javelin. Like you have to have strength, but you can't be too strong. You need to have the flexibility, but you can't be too flexible because you have to have the strength. You need to be fast, but you can't be too fast or else you're going to be out of control. So there's so many things that have to be in balance for the javelin to go far. And
And the angles of the
and
tech,
the angles, yep,
and that's why I
yep,
feel like, like anyone who throws the javelin or, honestly, any throwing event, even discus,
yeah,
like should give themselves grace if they have a bad day
yeah.
on the field, because like if one tiny little thing is off, like that
I
thing is
know.
going.
Yeah.
It's so
Well, and the
crazy.
thing is
Like the
too,
angle has to be
yes,
correct,
yep,
the release has
yep,
to be correct.
yep,
But most importantly, my coach tells me is like, where your hips are positioned and
yep,
the angle of your body when
yeah,
you're releasing, like if any of that is off for any
yep,
reason, and you may
yep.
not even know it's off because you're used
Yeah, like you
to
could be here's a
feel like
scenario.
it's fine, but then it's not. And
Yeah,
so it's just a very
yeah,
frustrating, throwing is very frustrating.
yeah.
And
The
sometimes
timing
like
has to be so perfect. And
timing, yes.
here's a great example, right? You could have had, let's say it's Thursday, okay? And 2 days prior to this, you could have had a tough, session of running, jumping, whatever that is. And then on Thursday, you come to this training session and you're throwing javelin, okay? Well, you could be tired and sore, and you're not moving as fast down the runway. You're still moving fast, like you still feel good, but maybe not as fast. And because you're not moving as fast, let's say like your crossovers are too wide, you're not, running smoothly, you could go from a 60-meter javelin throw to like a 40-meter javelin throw. Like it literally is just like, oh wow, because of 2 days ago, I had a hard lifting session and I was sprinting, and now I'm a little bit tired, and it's tough for me to feel that same connection.
Yeah.
And so there's the world record holder in the men's javelin. He had said, I think this was like in the 80s, he would take off before big competitions, and it could have been as he aged, but he would take off like 10 to 14 days of training of like throwing and whatnot prior to a big competition, because your body is rested and ready. And he was able to take the forces of the javelin to then throw the world record. He's incredible. He threw 90 plus meters a billion times. So
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
yeah,
And
it is. It's
but
amazing.
he learned that piece of the puzzle for himself.
Yes, for
And
herself. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Hmm.
think
Yeah.
that's really
And I
amazing.
think the
And
other
it
thing
also
about,
puts into perspective now throwing. Did you know that in the decathlon, the javelin is the second to last event? It's event number 9.
well, I knew that it was late in the hep, so I wondered it probably was in the
Event
decathlon.
number 9 before
I
the
know.
1500.
Yeah. Yikes. Yikes.
So
And you have to be kind of
yeah,
ballsy, right? Because you are
yeah.
going from a full run to a abrupt stop on your one of your legs, and having to take all of that. And you never know, like you could have, like for me or somebody, it's like I could have slipped in my warm up, and now I'm a little bit nervous on the runway. And so I'm afraid to block, and then all the timing is messed
Okay,
up.
so
It's like you just
so
never
your
know.
tenacity has to be a
Ex
factor as well.
exactly. The
You have
mental
to
piece
be
has to
like
be so
aggressive
good.
in your
And
throw.
I've always said, and this is of no disrespect to runners, like, everybody is excellent at this level and they work so hard. But if my event was that I could walk out and do a max effort, literally just gut the crap out of a 400 or whatever the running event was, like I would be an Olympic champion, I feel like, because I'm like, I have the will to do that. Like, I will outwork you. That is my superpower. You cannot outwork in javelin. Like, you literally cannot will the javelin to go farther. The moment you start trying to throw the javelin far, it's not going far.
I have also experienced that.
Exactly. So I'm like, I wish that I could get into the blocks and just be like, oh, I'm a lion out there and I'm going to get after it. I'm like, I would love that. Unfortunately, if I did that, the javelin would go 20 meters.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So much respect for you. I just thank you so much for sharing, that description and your perspective on javelin.
Yeah. It's a fun event. It
It is
humbles
fun.
me.
And that's the thing for me, I love a challenge, and
Yeah.
I think that challenges keep us going, whatever that challenge may be in life. When I run out of challenges, I create new challenges. And,
Yeah.
obviously the decathlon has kept me very busy with learning all the different events. I love
Yeah.
pole vault, for instance. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that one's fun too. Also very technical and very hard on the body, but in different
Yes.
ways. Um,
Yes.
but the javelin is just one of those things that I just want to figure out. Like I want to figure out
Same.
so yeah,
I
it's
feel the
really
exact
addictive.
same.
It's like I just want to tell people if you try it, it's addictive. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to want to stop. You're going to want to
Yeah.
keep trying to figure it
Yeah.
out. And
Because
also
you're like,
it
"Oh, I'm
taps
getting a little bit better, or I see a little bit of improvement." You're like, "Oh, I can, if I try this
into,
one thing, just 1% better." And then you're like, "Wait, why did it fly like that?"
yeah, how did that happen? Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And then that usually is the one that feels the easiest, right?
Yep. The best
Yeah.
throws have felt the easiest. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there's something also that's very primal about throwing a spear.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in our nature,
Yeah.
from our hunter-gatherer days or whatever, like
Mm,
that throwing that spear is something that's
yeah.
innate to us that we should be learning how to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
I
feels like
know.
I feel like such a warrior, like you said, warrior, like
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it.
Feel really strong with it for
And here in
sure.
Hawaii, like that was a big part of
Yeah.
how they would go to war.
Yeah.
And the king that united the island, King Kamehameha the First, he was known for catching spears. So
Oh, wow.
he was a big dude at 8 feet tall, and so they
Yeah.
would throw the spears and he would catch them. I think he
Oh
was
my
like
gosh.
8 feet tall, and I think he was like 300 pounds, like just
Okay.
massive. So
Yeah. Do
yeah,
they have javelin in high schools for Hawaii?
unfortunately, they don't, and it's technically illegal to throw in public parks. But my guys don't. They just leave. They leave me alone. They think it's really cool, and I stay off to the side.
Rebel.
So like they
Yes.
do a really good job maintaining the
Yeah.
grass, and I stay way in the corner
Yep.
where
Yep.
nobody walks or anything like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Those
Oh,
nuts.
I've gotten kicked off my fair shares of parks and football fields and tracks and yeah,
Yeah, I guess they
unfortunately.
think it's like, it's super dangerous, but I really feel like something like the discus is more dangerous
I
because,
agree. And also,
yeah,
my argument is always, if there's nobody around, how is this dangerous?
yeah, it's not like you're going to accidentally, like, I mean, you're looking where you're throwing, whereas the discus, you're
I'm
spinning,
like, I've been doing
right?
this enough for enough time now that if I do injure myself, like I will not sue you for using
Oh,
your
you mean
grass.
injure yourself? Yeah, no.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I know
Or
that's
injure
I'm
somebody
saying
else. Like,
injuring them too. I'm like, nobody's around. Like if
yeah,
I get
nobody,
hurt, like I'm not gonna sue you.
right. And you're not throwing it into a field full of kids playing soccer.
No, never. Of course not.
Yeah, it's really
I'm
weird.
not a
This is like,
monster.
I feel like of all states, the state of Hawaii should definitely have it
That's
legal.
what I was thinking when you
And
said
not
that. I
only
was like,
that,
Hawaii
I
should
really feel
definitely.
like the kids that are here, I mean, we've had some really good throwers
Yeah,
come out of Hawaii. And so
yeah.
I feel like,
Well,
yeah.
you have to work on that because I'm working on it for the state of Nebraska.
Oh,
So
you
you do,
are? Okay. Yeah, I would
so
like to
you work
know
on
what
it
you're
for
doing and I would
Hawaii.
be happy
Yeah,
to. Yeah,
yeah,
because
mhm,
also we have a lot of Tongans and Samoans and like
yeah,
I just feel like the culture is really structured. Like you said, you're built to throw a javelin. I feel like
yeah,
culturally
exactly.
their stature is that
Yeah,
shoulders are wide. They make good
right.
football players
Yeah.
too, obviously, but
Hmm.
like they can really throw.
Yeah,
So I would love to see just
that's
what it
awesome.
is. I'd love to see the kids have one more opportunity to go. I like I'll say get a college scholarship, or if you
Yeah,
walk on, because I always
yeah,
tell
just
the
go
kids
to college.
if you can
Yeah.
walk on, you're still gonna get perks
Hmm. Yeah.
as a college athlete.
Yep.
But
Yep.
have that opportunity to participate in sports in college, and
Yep.
maybe they're not going to go for baseball or they're not going to go for soccer. They're
Yeah.
not going to go for football because it's too competitive. But maybe there's a spot for javelin.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
want to
Exactly.
have one more opportunity for these kids
Yep.
to be able to do
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
So,
and for me, the biggest thing is like one of the reasons why I feel like it's important is because, in Europe or these other countries, they're developing kids younger. They know about javelin. I didn't even know what it was till I was 19. So it was like I didn't even know it existed. And so to have access to it early and access to coaches and access to, athletes who can talk about it, just to see somebody do it, I think is really important,
yeah.
obviously. So I
Oh
think
yeah,
that just
yeah.
kind of
Europe is
helps the
way ahead of
sport.
us. That is
Yeah.
true. That's what someone
Yeah.
told me, is that Europe is extremely ahead of us in javelin.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, because they have it. You know, I talked to girls who were like, "Yeah, I started throwing javelin when I was 7." I'm like, "Oh my
oh
God."
yes, I actually did meet somebody though. My husband's friend is dating this girl who threw javelin in college, and she came over for like dinner a few weeks ago, and
Oh,
she had the best story, let me tell you. And like she's strong too. And
yeah.
she was so much fun to talk to. And her dad, I think, threw javelin. And so as a
Okay.
result, she started whittling javelins out of wood. He taught
No.
her how to whittle javelins out of wood
Oh, I love this.
at age 7. Okay.
Oh,
And at age somewhere around, I think she said 10 or 11, she used to go
yeah.
hunting with him in Pennsylvania all the
Okay.
time. She had like, land, kind of like how I grew up in the Catskills,
Yeah.
woods and things like that and hunting. And
Yeah.
so she was in the deer stand with him. And um, she was getting out of the deer stand because it was like time to go or whatever. So she was
Yeah.
climbing down first, and the deer was right underneath the ladder. And she said she didn't even think twice. She jumped down on the
No
deer
way.
with the javelin that she whittled. And that's how she got her first deer. And I was like, man, I thought my first deer, how I got my first deer story
Yeah.
was really good. I'm like, you win. You
Primal.
win.
Primal. Oh my
So
gosh.
I mean, so that's how she got her first deer. Yeah, and I
Wild.
thought, what? All right, I feel like we should all raise our kids like this. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's just
yeah,
something like
yeah.
so.
The courage to
Oh,
do that is amazing.
yeah. I think her dad said like gave her a cue, which meant that he was going to shoot the deer,
Okay,
and then she took it as killed the deer.
kill it. Oh,
So he's gonna let it
well,
go or something. I don't know what he said, but I can't remember the story. But
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that she was pretty cool.
Oh, that's
She told
awesome.
me she's got a couple of drills for me to try and stuff like that.
There we go.
I
There we
love
go.
that our community is so nice that we all help each other.
Yeah, yeah. It
We're
doesn't need
all
to be
there.
harder than what it already is.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, well, let's get back to one more thing. How about we'll have
Okay.
time for one more thing of
Yeah.
pieces of the puzzle. And I know like there's so many pieces of the
Oh,
puzzle,
there's so
but
many.
let's
Yeah.
just go with one more.
Yep. I would say the number one thing that I have invested in is sleep, is how I am sleeping and like things that we've purchased to help with sleep. So like we bought blackout curtains and like we keep the house at 66 at night, I think. We have grounding sheets, like we have the sunrise clock. So like we're being woken up by like what the sun, hopefully, as close as you can get, right? So we turn the Wi-Fi off at night. And so all
Yes,
of those
that's a big one
kinds of
people don't know
things.
about that I like to
Yeah.
educate people about. Of course, my
Yeah.
clients as well.
Yeah. So all of those like really have helped with my sleep. And I definitely feel a difference because when I travel international, like I can only do so much, but
Did you know
I
that
love
Charles used to
say,
tell us that he brought black electrical tape with him to put
oh,
on all the LED lights in
God.
the hotel
Yeah.
room.
I do a sleep mask, a nice sleep, and that has been
Oh,
really
that's
helpful
good.
because then I just don't see any light, and I do that at home too. And then I usually have just like a soft sound going so that I don't hear anything. And I do sleep pretty good overseas, but nothing's like our setup at home.
Yeah, and I think there was a sleep study that said that you do sleep, I can't remember what percentage, but a certain percent less well in any
Yeah,
other place rather than your home because your subconscious knows that you're in it's like one of those
yeah,
primal instincts again where your
yeah, that
subconscious
makes
knows, and
sense.
so you have to be a little bit
Yep,
lighter sleeping in case the saber tooth
yeah,
comes or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, and even like when we
It's
go
our
to diamond
instinct.
leagues and different competitions, like I have a roommate that I might be meeting for the first time. So it's just very like,
Oh, that's tough.
yeah. And also, like, thankfully, I have been really blessed with amazing women. But I know some horror stories from people where they're like, oh, yeah, like that person wouldn't let me turn the AC on or like crazy stuff. And you're like, what? Or they
Or like
snore
up
crazy
all
all
night on
night.
the phone or something.
Yes, yes,
Or
yes.
snoring. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes. So I've been blessed, but yeah,
Sleep is
that has
most
been really
important.
big for me because of the recovery. Like, and
Um,
especially as I've gotten older, obviously my body's going to be different at 30 than it was at 21. And I trashed my body at 21. Oh my gosh. I can't, like, I wish that I knew these things when I was 21. But I just think the recovery piece is so important for me because every day needs to set me up for the next day. And if I'm training, 6 out of the 7 days a week, like I need those to be quality and not just like put in the days and check them off, but like quality, practice days. And sleep is the number one piece to that.
Yeah, you felt that then,
Oh, yeah.
and then, so I know that I usually recommend a couple sleep supplements, but what have you, and
Yeah.
I already know what your answer is going to be,
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
our listeners, what are maybe your two favorites winding down or sleep
hmm
supplements to help you sleep?
The two that I use are ATP Yin Reserve, and then the Mind Mag is what I use like in the evening, like kind of getting ready for it. I actually like Mind Mag more than the Yin Reserve for me lately. I don't know why, but it just has made, I honestly have no idea why, but I
I can
have felt
relate.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually say too, like the in reserve, sometimes you can become adapted to that. So I usually want
Yeah.
my clients do that all the time. But
I
it's
usually take it when I go to Europe is usually when if I have to adjust to a time zone. Yeah.
yeah, but the Mind
Mhm.
Mag is magnesium L-threonate, which is the only magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So that
Okay.
has been really, like I said, I have my big pool of data with my athletes.
Yep.
That has been a game changer for a lot of my athletes, and that
My
has
deep
been.
sleep is like astronomically
Oh, that's right,
better
because you
than it
track your
used to.
sleep now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my deep sleep was like not great. And my restfulness, my deep sleep, I am out. Like I am, you cannot wake me up.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it winds you down really nicely. And
Mhm.
I've even taken it at times where, I mean, thankfully, I live a lifestyle where I create situations that I don't have anxiety on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But for instance, when
Yeah.
I was dealing with the post-fire trauma, the post-wildfire trauma,
Yeah.
I was having like some overwhelming, stressful moments in the middle of the day, and I would take like one or two mind mags
Oh,
and I would be fine. And it wasn't like it didn't make me sleepy at that
yeah.
point because I was so anxious.
Yeah.
But at night it does, I do feel like it does make me a little sleepy and want to
That's
be ready for bed and not sleep.
interesting.
So, but
Yeah.
it did like when I was having you know what I mean? Like I said,
Yep.
I don't have these moments often, but you just
Yeah.
feel like, oh my
Tense.
gosh, I
It's like
can't
a
control
tension.
this
Yeah.
anxiety. I can't control this stress. Like I'm not able to
Yeah.
shift my mindset because too much is coming at me at once
Yeah.
to process, like
Because
then
it's
I
traumatic.
one or
Yeah.
two mind mags and
Yep.
then I felt like, you know what, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and
I
honestly,
really
I mean,
love that product.
that's how I have felt is just very at ease when I go to sleep and like heavy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I about fell off my chair. But I did like I feel like heavy going into bed and I'm just like and you don't feel that like a melatonin hangover the next day, which
Oh yeah.
melatonin, like I would always feel like groggy that next day. I've never felt like that.
Yeah. You wake up feeling
Yep.
refreshed.
Oh,
And
I wake up and I'm like excited. I'm like,
yeah,
ooh, new
oh,
day.
that's the best feeling, isn't it? To have like a great night's sleep and then wake up and feel like you can't wait to
Yeah.
conquer your
I'm
day.
like, ooh,
Oh,
what's for
I
breakfast?
want everyone to feel that way. Like that's one of
Yeah.
the things I want everyone to feel. And I feel like a very small percentage of people feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the in reserve, I do also like it when I have a really, really heavy training day where I know
Yeah.
I need to like recover my muscles for some reason. I feel like that
Mhm.
can recover a little bit better. But I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't like to take it every night because I think you can be adapted to it. But
Yeah.
it is a great supplement.
It
Okay,
is. We
well,
love ATP Labs.
we do love ATP Labs. Actually, they've
Yep.
been a sponsor to both of us, and
Yep.
we should just say, but there's a reason, like we picked them as a sponsor.
Yep.
They picked me through Charles.
Yeah.
But, like we are both very particular. We are not sellouts. We don't just go
No.
to any supplement company or
Nope.
any brand.
And I've been asked a lot.
Yeah, based protein or whatever. They'll always ask me, and I'm like, no, I don't believe in that, so I'm not
Yep.
gonna stand up for something I don't believe in. And the other thing about ATP is that they're so strict with their batch testing. I mean, I have had again like hundreds of clients that are athletes, and they are tested all the time. You guys are
Yeah.
tested as Olympians all the time. Like people don't
Yes.
realize you're out of competition tested frequently.
Yeah.
And then masters athletes are in competition tested frequently. So we're
Yeah.
tested, if you win first place in an event or even top three, you're going to be pulled to be tested. Or if
Yeah.
somebody suspects you, they'll pull you to be tested. So
Yeah.
I've been tested many times. My
Yeah.
masters clients tested, my Olympians tested, and
Yep.
everyone comes out clean because that's how
They have
strict
high
they are.
standards.
And that's why
Yeah.
we choose them. So we are
Yep.
both really grateful for their support over
Yes.
the years and just making it, I would thank them all the time for just making quality products.
Yes, it is. They have high
Every time.
standards, like you said. They do rigorous testing, like they make a quality product.
Yeah, and
And
I love that it's like no artificial ingredients. Like
yes,
there's nothing worse than seeing somebody with an amino acid that's bright blue. It's like blue raspberry or
you're
something.
like,
And I'm like, oh, what are you
that's
drinking? And
not
they're like, I don't
natural.
care.
That's not natural.
Yeah, I don't care. It makes me feel, pumped up. Well, I'm just gonna let you know that eventually that's gonna catch up to you, all those artificial
Yeah.
ingredients. So I like
Yep.
that. Like my amino acids the other day, I had amino acids and glutamate and it was completely clear.
Yeah.
In my,
Yeah.
I've been using a mason jar lately instead of the plastic. I've been trying to
Yeah.
reduce the plastic. So you see, I have my protein shake is in my coffee mug
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But I've been
Sam and I
reducing
have
my
got rid of,
plastics.
you told us to, but we got
Yeah.
rid of all of our plastics in 2019, I think, like literally all glass or like we have a ceramic cup. Yeah.
Right, or like hydro flask or something
Yeah,
stainless
the hydro
steel.
flask. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think that we'll just interject that here too. It's really important to
Yep.
start to reduce your plastics. And so instead of like a plastic protein
Yep.
shaker, I actually use a mason jar.
Mhm.
And I mean, I take it to the field or the track, and I don't really feel like it's gonna break. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been working really good, but or
Yeah.
the hydro flask if it's gonna be really hot.
Yeah. The hydro flask is, oh yeah, especially in the summer heat has been good. But yeah, highly, I mean, there's been so much coming out about the amount of plastics that we're ingesting. The recent uh what did I see? The recent stat I saw was we eat a credit card's amount of plastic a day. The average American does.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Crazy. I mean, it really is hard to avoid because all of our food is, if you think about going to the grocery store, going to Costco or anything,
Yeah. What's it covered
everything
in?
is wrapped in plastic. But if we can do anything to reduce it, or, obviously, water bottles are pretty bad, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they're warm, that sort of thing. You
Yep.
don't know how warm they've gotten in shipping.
Yeah.
So, it's microwave, all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
We've done, you and I and all my clients and everyone I teach has done a
Yep.
really good job of reducing those. So
Try
but
to.
anyway, well, I'm going to
Yeah.
let you go throughout your day because we
Yeah.
had a wonderful conversation. I'm sure we could probably talk about these things for hours.
Oh, yes.
There's so much
Yeah.
to talk about, but I just wanted to give, listeners a little tidbit of what are, some of the things
Yeah.
that help you achieve your goals at such a high elite level.
Mm.
Because you are at the highest, the most elite.
But I think, and we know this too, it's not like, yes, I throw the javelin and I have a platform with the Olympics, but I think that all of these go, sorry, Sam's trying to come in. Oh, he brought me a little, we're doing a podcast, Sam. Come on, get out of here. No, he's trying to get our cat. Love this. This is typical day. No, but I was going to say is I have the platform with the Olympics, but I feel like these tips help everybody. Like this just is basic to like achieve your goal or just to feel better. Like sleep's going to help you feel better. Your awareness of nutrition and awareness of your body is going to make you feel better. Like community is going to make you feel better. All of these things are going to help you in whatever you're trying to achieve, even if it's just being a better version of yourself the next day. It's like all of those things are going to help.
I totally agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank
Aww.
you so much, Mahalo. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
me and taking time out of your day to do this with me today. I appreciate it.
Love it. Miss you.
Miss you too. You'll be out here visiting soon. I know it.
I know we will.
Okay.
All
Aloha.
right.